All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for my official NFL draft predictions. Who do I think is going to be a superstar? Who do I think is going to be a bust? I'm just going to go and shoot it straight and just go through these players based off of every single mock draft in the database. You can see number of mock drafts. Where are these players ranked? Where are they trending? What's my opinion? And then who do I think are some sleepers? And then we're going to get into players and how they're trending individually. But just taking a look at this top 10 list, you've got Bryce Young, number 1 overall. Yes, I do think Bryce Young will be a franchise quarterback. He would be a fine number 1 overall pick if that does happen. I did see he was minus 1,200 to go number 1 overall. The height, to me, the height is a big concern. If you guys don't know, Bryce Young is actually the exact same height as Kyler Murray. That's a problem. But I still do think Bryce Young's good. He's accurate. He's really mobile. The height is going to lower his ceiling, though, in the NFL. CJ Stroud has fallen to number 2. And, guys, I don't know if you saw the leaked results of that cognitive test, whatever it is. I don't think this is accurate, but it's saying that CJ Stroud scored in the 18th percentile. That's a problem if that's true, because I've been on the CJ Stroud bandwagon. I like him. I think the way he throws is very similar to Drew Brees. The ball comes off really easily, but yeah, you can't be scoring an 18 percentile on that. The leaked scores were like Bryce Young got 97 percentile, Will Levis was 93, Anthony Richardson was 79, and CJ Stroud was 18 percentile, but I do think it was fake or something because they actually interviewed the person who did the tests and he said all the quarterbacks did well. So while I think CJ Stroud probably did the worst out of all of them, I mean, if he actually scored in the 18th percentile, that's a big issue. Will Anderson at number 3, he's going to be a superstar. That's about all I can say about him. Anthony Richardson at number 4, he'll be a complete bust. If you watched him in college, you would know. The issue is we have a lot of these people who don't watch any college football. They see him light up the combine and they're like, oh, he needs to be drafted high. He's extremely raw. I don't think he'll be good in the NFL at all. Tyree Wilson, I'm just not seeing it with Tyree Wilson. I don't hate him, but he might be a guy that's more of a pressures machine than getting a ton of sacks. You're looking at maybe 8 sacks a season, 9 sacks. If you think that's worthy of a top 10 pick, I mean, I think he's a first-round pick. I don't know about top 10. Jalen Carter's a complete bust. I would not touch him. I would not draft him in the first round. I would not draft him in the 5th round. I said Jalen Carter was a bust before he had the off-the-field issues. I saw someone say on Twitter that Jalen Carter was like a once-in-a-generation prospect. And it's like, which one of his 3 sacks he had proved to you that he's a generational prospect? I keep having problems with people when it comes to evaluating NFL talent. The guy had 3 sacks. I'm sorry, that's an issue. It's just not enough production. It's way too many red flags. I am staying far away from Jalen Carter. Christian Gonzalez, I've come around on. I think he'll be a solid starting cornerback, but I do like Joey Porter Jr. and Cam Smith as my top 2 cornerbacks. Will Levis, I really don't know what to make of Will Levis at all. I do think he will go to Indianapolis at number 4, or they might trade up to number 3, but I have no clue. I think Will Levis is a wild card. Devin Witherspoon should be good, but I do have questions. The Big Ten this year, when you look at Illinois and who they faced basically no good offenses, so he just hasn't faced anyone. And then Paris Johnson's going to be a beast. He's going to be a solid starting tackle in the NFL for a decade. He might not be ultra elite, but I do see him making a few Pro Bowls there. Let's go position group by position group. So Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, I both think are going to be franchise quarterbacks, but I am starting to teeter on CJ Stroud if he actually did score in the 18th percentile. I'm sorry, I know it's just a test, but that's borderline. I mean, 18th percentile is just horrific. Anthony Richardson, I think, is going to be a bust. Will Levis, I don't know. Hendon Hooker, if he goes in the first round, he will be a complete bust. He is too old. He played in a gimmick system at Tennessee. He's going to have to really adjust to the NFL. I don't know if he will go in the first round. His ADP is at 35, which is a fringe first rounder, but you could definitely see a team trading up, drafting him at the end of the first round to get that fifth option year on the rookie deal. Running backs, Bijan Robinson's going to be a superstar. We all know this. I would be fine with drafting Bijan 10th overall, 12th overall. He's going to be a star. And then I also think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be really good, especially early in the second round. If you look at his average draft position, right around number 40th. He's kind of like a bigger, faster Alvin Kamara, in my opinion. Looking at the wide receivers, JSN is going to be a beast. He's a great possession receiver. He's not the fastest guy, but it really doesn't matter. JSN is the clear number one receiver. Zay Flowers, I'm just not buying. I think Zay Flowers is far too small in terms of his weight and his height. So I would just pass on Zay Flowers. Jordan Addison's going to be a very, very solid receiver in the NFL. He might be a number one receiver. I compare him to Calvin Ridley personally, and his average draft position, he could be the second receiver taken off the board. It just depends. Quentin Johnson's going to be a complete bust. Kevin White 2.0. Jalen Hyatt, I get major Devin Smith vibes from him. Devin Smith out of Ohio State, if you guys don't know. I would pass on Jalen Hyatt. He's got speed. But actually, if you take a look at his 40 time, it was 4.41. That's really not that impressive for a guy who's known for his speed. The tight ends, this is a very clear, top two, Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid. Mayer is a more complete tight end. He can block, he can catch. Kincaid gives you more upside. I would draft Kincaid over Mayer. I think Kincaid is a George Kittle type prospect. Mayer is more of just a solid possession guy who can also block. He's a little bit bigger, but those two guys are really good. Darnell Washington seems like, if you're going to draft him in the first round, a potential bust. If he goes in the second round, that's decent. He's a really good blocker. Luke Musgrave, I don't know what to make of him. He barely played at Oregon State. I guess if you get him in the second round, maybe he's a Dallas Goedert type player, just kind of spitballing there. Offensive tackles, you've got Paris Johnson, Peter Skoronski, both going to be studs. I would draft either of them inside the top 10. Skoronski might have to play guard. Jones and Wright, the other two tackles, I really like Wright out of Tennessee. He's massive. He had a really good season in SEC play. And then Harrison and Jones, I would say fringe starting tackles in the NFL. Some of these guys are going to bust. I'll say, Broderick Jones possibly could bust. Harrison might bust. But overall, if you want to get an offensive tackle, I would say your best bet is Paris Johnson or Darnell Wright. And then Skoronski might end up being a guard. Looking at the guards and interior linemen, John Michael Schmitz is a guy I think you can start at center and leave him there for 8 years and he'll be fine. He's just going to be a really good player, so that would be the one guy. Torrance, I just don't know if you want to invest that high of a pick into a guard outside of Skoronski, so I would probably say just wait for the second or third round to get an interior guy. It's just not great positional value. Looking at the pass rushers, Will Anderson's going to be a superstar. Tyree Wilson is going to be a pressures machine. I don't know if I would draft him inside the top 10, though. Van Ness, I would pass on. I'm not interested. Nolan Smith is a very interesting prospect, but he gets injured. Miles Murphy's a complete bust. Will McDonald, I really like Will McDonald. I would draft Will McDonald probably in the top 15. White, the edge rusher from Georgia Tech, is very raw. Not much technique, and then those bottom two guys also very raw. So when it comes to the pass rushers, if I'm Arizona, I'm probably drafting Will Anderson at number 3. I know there's talk about Houston taking him at number 2. That just makes no sense unless you really do plan on tanking next year as well to try and get Drake May or Caleb Williams. That's just, now you're talking about tanking for like 3 years. That's just too much. I would just draft CJ Stroud unless, I don't know. I think CJ Stroud's still going to be good in college or in the NFL. But we will see what they end up doing. Will Anderson's going to be a beast. Will McDonald's going to be a beast. I think Nolan Smith could be good. Tyree Wilson could be good for the pass rushers. Looking at the defensive tackles, I don't like any of these guys. Jalen Carter, I don't like. Kancey is way too small. There was actually a stat when you look at Kancey and his measurables There's been no player that's had a successful career with how small he is at the defensive tackle position. You need to not draft Kancey. Bresee gets injured every year. And then Smith, the defensive tackle from Michigan, he might be the best value guy early in the second round out of the defensive tackles. Looking at the linebackers, Jack Campbell in the second round is probably pretty good. I know Trenton Simpson is falling. I would probably pass on him. Drew Sanders, I mean, if you need a linebacker in the second round, I wouldn't hate it. Looking at the cornerbacks, I think Christian Gonzalez is going to be good. Witherspoon will probably be good. Joey Porter is probably my number one cornerback. Banks, I just don't see it. Forbes, I think he's too small in terms of weight. Ringo is probably going to be a safety, and then Cam Smith is probably my number two cornerback. I really like Cam Smith behind Joey Porter. And then safety, I really like Brian Branch as a versatile nickelback or safety type hybrid. I would draft him in the middle of the first round. But this is what the site is. It's grinding through mocks, so they just basically take a composite of every single mock draft and factor it into an overall average draft stock. So like with CJ Stroud, you can see throughout the process, he kind of fell a little bit. Then he bumped way up to number one. And now with all the reports coming out about how badly he scored, I think people are overreacting to him a little bit. He is still going to be a franchise quarterback as long as he didn't score in the 18th percentile, which I don't think he did. He should still go at least top 2. I would still consider drafting him over Bryce Young because Bryce Young is so small. Personally, this is Anthony Richardson. So, I mean, you can see Anthony Richardson's draft stock after he played his final college game was like a mid-first rounder, maybe late first rounder. And, like, it's just gone way up because of the combine and stuff like that. I just don't understand that. You can see it peaked and then it's come back down a little bit. I have seen a lot of mock drafts predicting Anthony Richardson to go to Seattle at number 5 and sit behind Geno Smith. I just don't think Anthony Richardson is accurate enough to be a solid NFL quarterback. I understand he's mobile, he has the speed, but if you guys actually watched college football, this guy is not a top prospect. He's just not. It's just people do not watch college football. They don't see it. I'm someone that's huge on production. You got to produce for me in college. If you're going to have mediocre stats, I'm going to view that as a massive red flag. You can see Jalen Carter, kind of thought of as like, I would say a top 2 or 3 prospect there going into the combine, has the issue with the speeding, with the racing, and then also has the issue with showing up out of shape during his pro day. And he's kind of, it's looking like maybe the Lions will take him. He might fall. I mean, look at some of those mock drafts. If you look, some of them have him falling into the mid-20s. Yeah, I would just stay away from Jalen Carter. I mean, listen, it's like he's going to give you 3 sacks and then, blow through a stop sign. I don't see the hype surrounding Jalen Carter at all. The dude didn't even have 10 sacks his entire college career. It's just the idea that you can call that a generational prospect. It's honestly insulting. It really is. Will Levis has kind of had a weird journey with his draft stock rising and then falling, and now it's rising again. And again, there is a thought that Indianapolis will draft Will Levis either at number 3 or number 4 where we stand today. JSN, we know the injury concerns he had. He started off like as almost a top 5 player because of his crazy sophomore season. He fell all the way down to 23. Now he's rising, and maybe the Houston Texans with that number 12 pick might draft him. JSN's going to be a beast in the NFL. Bijan Robinson, I mean, the mock drafts are just all over the place because people don't know how to value a running back. I would draft Bijan at number 10. I would draft him at number 12. I think, he's a really solid player, and with a running back, he can come in and be an all-pro year 1 as a rookie, and you also get that 5th-year option on him. Yeah, Bijan is a complete impact player. He's going to be really good at the next level. Joey Porter looks like he's sitting at around number 17 overall. I think Joey Porter is going to be a really good cornerback, maybe going to the Steelers, maybe going somewhere in the middle of the first round. Van Ness has had a pretty crazy draft rise. I mean, no one even knew about him, and he's just skyrocketed up boards now. I would personally pass on him, but I have not done my homework on Van Ness very much. Myles Murphy has just gotten destroyed here recently in terms of his draft stock. He was like a top 10 player. Now he's sitting at number 19 in terms of average, but there's a lot of mock drafts that have him towards the end of the first round, maybe the early second. Jordan Addison's kind of falling a little bit to number 23. He did not have a good combine time or good measurables, but I still like Jordan Addison. I think he's kind of like a Calvin Ridley type receiver. Quentin Johnson, I think, is going to be a complete bust. He is falling significantly in mock drafts, all the way down to number 25 right now. Dalton Kincaid is kind of stabilized as kind of a late first round pick. Maybe a team like the Cowboys would be interested. We will see. Will McDonald is a guy that's had a pretty significant rise here late, kind of going as a fringe first rounder. His average ranking is right around 32. So I think Will McDonald will go in the first round. Cam Smith is falling. I really don't understand why. I think Cam Smith's going to be really good. But he is falling. Jack Campbell has noticed a little bit of a significant rise here lately. Yeah, Jack Campbell should be solid. He'll give you a very high floor, but a low ceiling. I really don't think many linebackers in general will be drafted in the first round in the coming years just because the position doesn't have a ton of value on it at this point. So guys, that's just kind of my recap on all the players. Do I think they're going to be stars or busts, things like that? But that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.